Welcome everybody, this is Jason and the name of this week's workshop is Promises Kept, Part 1. This is a series of 3 kind of catch-all workshops that don't fit in any one particular category. I promised them back in 2023 and just haven't gotten around to presenting them yet. This one in particular is about converting XNALara models to Sims 2. So let's jump right in. What are XNALara models? An XNALara model is a model that uses the XPS file format and it can be opened using XPS. You can find more information about it here. We also had the link in the resource post. What do I need to get started? About what you would need for any other project with a few exceptions. Obviously we need XPS 11.8.9. You would need to read the installation instructions for your particular operating system. They're on the page linked in the previous card and on the resource post. We would need a 3D modeling tool, e.g. Blender or Milkshape, a photo editing tool, e.g. Photoshop, SimPE, and some XNALara models to convert. DeviantArt is a great source for these models. Right after the presentation, I'll show you how to search for them. To get started, we would need to open a model in XNALara. You'll see that XNALara has 2 panes, the control window and the viewport. The setup is kind of wonky. The way that I prefer is just like this. I mash them both together and then you can see what changes when you manipulate one or the other. To pose the model, we double click on each joint in the hierarchy and then we move the X, Y, and Z sliders to rotate. It's a lot like posing if you've ever posed anything in Sims 2. In Milkshape, it's kind of the same deal. We just rotate the joint until the model is in the right position. Once the model has been posed, it can be exported. Select Modify, Export Scene as Obj, and then just export to a project folder. In the pop-up, leave the checkboxes as is. This will export the textures along with the object. In Photoshop, open the exported textures in Photoshop. Make sure that they're sized at 1024 by 1024 or smaller, and that they're a format that SimPE will support. PNG, JPEG, or BMP. A lot of the models in XNALara have TGAs. It's best just to convert those to JPEG. In Milkshape, for making static objects, keep in mind that the different models are scaled for different games. To make sure that the model is the right scale, it helps to import another OBJ into Milkshape to compare it to. In this example, I'm comparing the model that I posed to an adult male skeleton. For making accessories, in addition to scaling, you'll probably have to reposition the mesh, remap, regroup, etc. For accessories, you would import a standard body template of the age, gender that you're making the accessory for. And then instead of exporting as OBJ, you would assign the groups to the correct bones and export as a 5GD. You would obviously have to delete the body template first, but yeah, pretty much. Accessories are a whole thing, so I'm not going to delve into much detail as far as building them in Milkshape, but for the purpose of this workshop, I will show you the basics. So once you have XNALara installed, you would need to search for models. So the way that I like to do it, I go to my search engine and I just go XNALara boat, for example. Then we click on images and we can see that there are a whole bunch of options right here on DeviantArt. So let's have a look at this one, for example. You would need to create an account, you would need to log in, but then you can just download all of these free models. Okay, so we open our project folder, we double click on the XPS file, So you can see I've got the control window and the viewport side by side. So we move this guy around in the viewport, and we can see there are all these different arm and leg joints. Let's start with this shoulder. So what happens when we roll it this way? If we move the X slider, it kind of goes forward and back. Then I want it out a little bit, and then I want the Z slider to kind of, well, you might have to move the viewport a little bit so you can see what's happening. Man, there it is. There. That's kind of what I wanted to do. That's a little too much. Okay, now let's do the elbow. It's kind of like posing in milk shape once you get the hang of it. That angle is way too sharp, but I don't know if there's a lot I can do about it. I want that shoulder joint to go up so it compensates for, like, that one, the bend shouldn't be quite that sharp. It's fiddly. It takes practice. I wanted to go behind his head, but it's just not. It's not as straightforward as milk shape. It's not quite as intuitive.
Looks like he's trying to keep the sun in his eyes right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to move this one behind his head. See if I can get it. That's better. It's not great. There we go. Now, let's find the wrist. We'll double click on that wrist joint. Almost there. If we could just nudge it out a bit, I'll be happy with it. That's about the right height. I just need to pivot out, and it doesn't want to do that. So we can play around with the view in the viewport by you click and hold down the cursor and then spin around the mouse, or if you want to scroll in and out, you use the mouse wheel. No, that's not it. Let's try to get this wrist. That's kind of what I wanted to do. The articulation on this model is kind of crazy. There! Okay, now let's make this one, let's make him put his hand on his belly. There we go. That was a little easier. tweak this wrist in just a bit. Nope.
Almost there.
There it is. Maybe roll his shoulder in just a tiny bit. And that looks pretty good. So now we go modify, and we go export scene as OBJ, and I'm just going to call this one Happy Gorilla. Okay, and let's close that out. And let's do one more right quick. So we can just see there isn't really a joint hierarchy on this one. There's just a hat and a pair of sunglasses. So I go modify, export scene as OBJ, copy the textures, and I'm just going to go right over happy hat. Okay, so that's it for XPS. So we open this gorilla, and we can see we've got a white body. Basically, this was from some zoo game. So they have like one basic model, but it comes in a couple of different colors. So we'll go Control, Alt I. Just want to make sure that that's pixels. So it's 1024 by 1024. That's reasonable. Save as. I don't think we really need to save over that. So he's got a mouth and he's got. Well, let's put it into milk shape and see how it looks. Because I don't really understand what's what as far as the textures go. So we go import, wavefront, and let's go to our project folder. We grab Happy Gorilla, and let's turn that stuff off so we can see what's happening here. So now we've got 3 different groups. That's his mouth. That's the eyes, and I don't recall if those use a different texture. So we know the body uses either the albino or the regular texture. So let's load the albino texture, and then we just assign it right quick. Okay, that looks pretty normal. Then we'll grab the mouth. And why is there a separate mouth for albino? I guess just because they're 2 different models. XPS or XNALara is kind of like that because it's a different model name. The texture, even though it's basically the same, needs a different name. I don't see a separate texture for the eyes, so I'm just going to try to that looks correct. Oh, I get it, because the albino gorilla has different eyes. That's why it needs a different texture. The mouth and the eyes pull from the same texture. Now, I don't love that his thumb is kind of embedded there. I tried to get it right, but I'm not too worried about it. It's just for the purpose of this workshop. Okay, so let's select the mouth and the eyes together and regroup. And I'm just going to call that Happy Gorilla. And I just want to check one thing right quick. Oh, I already exited out of Photoshop. No, I'm still there. Just want to check the size on this. And it's 256 by 512, so we're good to go. Okay, I'm done with Photoshop. So now, let's have a look at how we will build an accessory. I'm going to start out by importing an animation skeleton. Just going to grab an adult male skeleton. I don't need any of the meshes, I just need the animation skeleton. This is from another project that I'm working on. And if you're following along at home, just load up the model template. But I'm going to grab it from here. Just going to grab a male skeleton. See? So that template lines up pretty nicely with the adult animation skeleton. So now go back up to our project folder and we look for Happy Hat. So you can see, I don't even know what that third group is. There's really only the hat and the sunglasses. You can see they're approximately the same size, but they're nowhere close to the right position. So let's move it roughly where it needs to be. Zoom in a bit so we can get a better idea of what's happening. If your sim is bald, it's not an issue. The hat fits really closely with the head. You might have to make separate meshes for male and female because their heads are in different positions. So in this case, maybe we need to scale it up. We'll just bump up the scale and now see the hat is sitting pretty close on the head where it should be, and the sunglasses are they're still clipping a bit into the eyebrow. So maybe we deselect the hat, we just keep the sunglasses, and we scoot the sunglasses around. Just want to move it down and forward so it just hooks on the ear there. We want it fairly close to the face. I don't like how the arms, they're barely hanging onto the ear, but if we scale it any narrower on the x-axis, it's probably going to clip into the brow. And we might want to rotate that a bit just so it sits more squarely on the bridge of the nose. That down a little bit. And I think that's as good as it gets. Let's hide the skeleton. And then let's add the materials so we can see how it looks. There's something up with that texture. It's kind of transparent. I might tweak it. In order to make this an accessory now, what we would do is we just delete that body template, and then we double click on our head joint. we hold down shift and we select both groups, back over to joints and assign. Then over here we can enter our comments to make sure that, whoa, didn't want to do that, to make sure that it's enabled for multi-joint, even though it's only assigned to the head really. And yeah, we just rename it frame and mesh, fix our comments, and export it as a 5GD. I'm not going to get into that today, but I'm just going to save this right quick so that I have this as a reference. And let's just grab one of the Maxis objects. We're not going to go and do anything crazy today, so yeah, let's just clone a Deco Maxis object. This one might work. Make it about 350. Let's rename our scene graph. We update, we OK. Yeah, I'm just going to save this in the workshop folder. We switch to the plugin view. We'll grab the OBJD. And I've covered this in object build, in like basic object workshops, but whatever system works for you. I just use a spreadsheet for all my GIDs. So we copy that, we paste it over, and because this has mmats, it is recolorable. We're going to click here, update all the mmats, click update, and then commit, and we can save it. Now, how many subsets do we have? I don't like shadows. I just get rid of my shadows because I don't really use them. Let's grab Happy Gorilla. Now, the regroup, we know that these are the eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to use that to replace Sculpture. And then here, the body, we select Replace in our dropdown, and we're replacing the base. Let's see what that looks like. The shape is right. We just need to replace the textures. Let's commit that there. Then we select the TXTR. This is the nose and mouth, or yeah, the nose, the mouth, the eyes. We go build DXT. And I want the albino. Make sure that format is DXT3 and build. Then we commit. We don't have shadows, so we can delete our shadows. Then this is the base, so this should be the gorilla's body. We select DXT3 and we build. Okay, then we go up to the TXMT. Sculpture. This is shadow. That's shadow, so I'm just going to delete it. No, didn't want to do that. That's shadow. That's shadow. That's shadow. So all we've got is a base and the sculpture. The sculpture, I'm a little suspicious of the specularity. So we double check the specularity on that. I'm going to crank that down. I'm going to go 125, 125, 125. That way the eyes and the mouth aren't going to be super shiny. We commit, and let's double check the base. Because this is matte. This one isn't as reflective as the other one. I think we're fine, but let's preview it in the GMDC first. Yeah, that is super specular. That is way shiny. That's why we check it before we test it in game. Okay, so let's take our specularity down to about 10. And let's dump this one down. Let's drop it down to about 150. Commit. Yeah, I don't want it to be super glossy. Let's see what happens now. Yeah, that's a lot better. I think I can live with that. Let's commit. Save right quick, and we're ready to test. So let's go to Deco, Sculptures, and about 350. Yeah, this is our buddy from the basic object creation tutorial. There it is.
He's so huge.
Yeah. Let's bring our friend over to look at it. Just so you get a comparison with like the size of a regular sim versus yeah, let's zoom in there. So yeah, it's about a sim's height. And that's pretty much it. That's how you would do a basic object. Accessories are a little bit more complicated.